an iHeartRadio experience. Rock Legends AC/DC in Vancouver. So, who needs tickets? You could win concert tickets to the Power Up Tour, $500 spending cash, and 2 nights in Vancouver from TripCentral.ca. The smarter way to book travel. Listen to iHeart Heavy Rock on the free iHeartRadio app today for just 10 consecutive minutes to be entered for your chance to win. Every day you listen earns a brand new shot to rock with AC/DC. Details at iHeartRadio.ca.
This Week in Gaming with Naomi Kyle.
Hello everyone, I'm Naomi Kyle and welcome back to This Week in Gaming. This week we're catching up on the Pokémon Presents, Forza on the PS5, PSVR 2 gets a price cut, and Monster Hunter Wilds is doing numbers. We've got all of this week's gaming news. Let's get to it. On Pokémon Day, the Pokémon Company broadcast the Pokémon Presents for 2025, giving fans a sneak peek at what they have planned for 2025 and beyond. After setting an early alarm and making a pot of coffee the night before, I was all set to tune in for the presentation. The video aired at 6 a.m. over here and ran for about 20 minutes from start to finish. Even in such a short span of time, the Pokémon Presents revealed loads of new content coming out for all of their projects. Here's a few of the highlights. The stop-motion TV show Pokémon Concierge is adding new episodes on Netflix in September 25th. A new tour event for Pokémon Go focuses on the Unova region from Generation 5, introducing the legendary Pokémon Black Kyurem and White Kyurem. Pokémon Multiplayer Online Battle Arena, or MOBA, Pokémon Unite, is adding 3 new Pokémon to the roster. Alolan Raichu will be available to play in April. Alcremie doesn't have a release date yet, but is expected to join soon, and Suicune joined the roster on March 1st and is available to play right now. A new title called Pokémon Champions was announced to be in development for Nintendo Switch and mobile. Pokémon Champions looks like it will offer gameplay similar to that of Pokémon Stadium, but with a feature allowing players to transfer their Pokémon from older titles with help from Pokémon Home. The biggest news from the Pokémon Presents came in the form of a new trailer for Pokémon Legends ZA. The trailer revealed the starter Pokémon for ZA will be Chikorita and Totodile from Gen 2 and Tepig from Gen 5. For the first time, trainers will be available to move their Pokémon to dodge attacks and position themselves for better strategy in battle. There is still no release date for Pokémon Legends ZA, but it is expected to launch sometime in late 2025. Over the past couple of years, Xbox has been very generous with their video game IPs. Former Xbox exclusive titles like Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves have found a home on Sony's console, the PS5. Thanks in part to the success of re-releasing these games on new hardware, Microsoft has plans for even more Xbox exclusive titles like Indiana Jones and Forza to release on PlayStation hardware. For 25 years, Forza has long remained an Xbox exclusive. When Forza's developer Playground Games announced that Forza Horizon 5 would be re-releasing on the PS5. Now, we have received an additional announcement that Forza Horizon 5 will be releasing on PS5 on April 25th, 2025. The PS5 version of the game will include all of the content one can find on the PC and Xbox versions. I, for one, am pleased to see Xbox continuing to expand gaming by breaking the mold and giving players on other platforms the opportunity to play modern Xbox titles. The Nintendo Switch 2 Direct is just a month away, and I have high hopes to see more Xbox titles stretch their legs on Nintendo's latest hardware. Half-Life 3 may not only be in development, but a team at Valve might be polishing the game for a release in the near future. I know how this sounds, but I need you to put on your tinfoil hats for just a second and hear me out. In a 2025 update for Dota 2, data miners have noticed several files in the update's code that contain the HLX naming convention. HLX has been considered by many to be a code name for Half-Life 3. These HLX files don't seem to be actively used by Dota 2 and contain references to the Half-Life games. A YouTuber by the name of Tyler McVicker, says that these files don't appear to be just random files, but rather they contain specific code that scales NPC AI based on NPC's distance to the player character. McVicker believes that these files are evidence that Valve has hit the optimization and polish phase of Half-Life 3. After more than a decade of Half-Life 3 rumors and leaks, I'm still keeping my guard up. There is a part of me that desperately wants this to be true, but I've been hurt and fooled too many times. Deep down, I know that I'll never truly believe that I'll be playing Half-Life 3 until I see that play button on Steam. Since its launch last week, Monster Hunter Wilds has been doing incredibly well. It is currently the second most played game on Steam, just under Counter-Strike 2, topping out at 1.3 million concurrent players. That is 4 times higher than the previous record set by Monster Hunter World, which peaked at 334,000 concurrent players. So, if 1.3 million people are playing Monster Hunter Wilds, who is left working? Turns out, gamers have been calling into work sick so they can stay at home and play Monster Hunter Wilds. One employer affected by this wave of callouts was none other than Palworld developer Pocket Pair. Pocket Pair reported on social media that many of their employees were succumbing to a mysterious illness, and they would be completely unable to come into the office on February 28th, the launch day of Monster Hunter Wilds. The developer got the message and has declared that February 28th will be a company-wide holiday and that no one is expected to come into work. The launch of Monster Hunter Wilds has become a global phenomenon. It is a great game and it should be played by everyone. If you haven't played Monster Hunter Wilds yourself, maybe check your schedule and see if you have any sick days. I hear there's a bug going around. When Sony launched their new VR experience, the PSVR 2, back in 2023, they listed the base model for sale at $750 Canadian and a Horizon Call of the Mountain bundle for $800. Meaning at launch, the PSVR 2 cost more than a PS5, which at the time, that console was necessary to run the PSVR 2. Needless to say, Sony didn't move as many units as they had anticipated, causing inventory to stockpile, so much so that Sony had reportedly paused production on the PSVR 2 last year. Sony has announced that they will be slashing the price of the PSVR around the globe by $200. At $550, this new price point could help Sony rid themselves of extra units and get more gamers excited about trying VR for the first time. And from what I can read from forums, looks like people are really excited about this discount. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier made headlines after breaking news that Warner Bros. Will be shutting down 3 video game studios. Warner Bros. Responded in a statement that reads, "We've had to make some very difficult decisions to structure our development studios and investments. After careful consideration, we are closing 3 of our development studios, Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and Warner Bros. Games San Diego. The development of Monolith's Wonder Woman video game will not move forward. Our hope was to give players and fans the highest quality experience possible for the iconic character, and unfortunately, this is no longer possible within our strategic priorities. We greatly admire the passion of the 3 teams and thank every employee for their contributions." Monolith Productions, not to be confused with Monolith Soft, was best known for creating the Lord of the Rings titles, Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, each of which used the Nemesis system. The Nemesis system is a complex game mechanic that gives enemies personality and creates structure for the rise and fall of bad guys within their own social hierarchy. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty bummed that this studio is shutting down. I was really looking forward to playing a Wonder Woman game that used the Nemesis system as expertly as the Shadow of Mordor did. My heart goes out to everyone that was laid off as a result of the shutdown. I hope you find work very soon, and I hope the industry as a whole can recover from whatever seems to be the underlying issue that is causing the mass layoffs we're seeing. And now it's time to go over the video games releasing this week.
Games out this week.
On March 4th, 2 Point Museum releases on PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. War Robots Frontiers marches onto PS4, PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. And on March 5th, Wizardom launches exclusively on PC. Then on March 6th, Eldritch Creatures Shadowfall, releases on PS4, PS5, PC, Switch, and Xbox Series X and S. Fragpunk and Split Fiction releases on PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. And Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster releases on all platforms. On March 7th, Sugardew Island, Your Cozy Farm Shop, releases on PS4, PS5, PC, and Nintendo Switch. WWE 2K25 goes into early access on PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. And Beyond the Ice Parade 2 releases on PC on March 10th and on consoles March 11th. The Epic Game Store is offering just one free game this week, Them's Fightin' Herds, which will be available for download from March 6th until the 13th. PS Plus subscribers can look forward to 3 free games for the month of March: Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Cowabunga Collection, Sonic Colors, and Dragon Age The Veilguard. All of these titles will be free and available to download from March 4th until the 31st.
Quest complete.
So that's it for the news this week. It's now time to chat with our guest, Cam Hawkins, who joins us to chat about the new Pokemon announcements, those Half-Life 3 rumors we heard, and the future of WB Games.
Select game mode. Multiplayer.
Hey Cam, welcome to This Week in Gaming. So good to have a newcomer to the show for this episode.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about 3 different things that happened in the news this week. First off, I heard that you're a big Pokemon fan. We, of course, had Pokemon Presents every year. They have on Pokemon Day, which I think is every last day of February, right? February 28th?
Yes, I think it's or 27th, something like that.
Something like that, right? So this year was on February 28th. We had Pokemon Presents. They obviously unveiled a bunch of new Pokemon news. What was the thing that really stood out to you that they announced? Or maybe saved the best for last in that case?
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth saving the best for last here. But I think the one thing that's interesting is the Pokemon Champions that they announced, because it's going to basically be a new way to link your Pokemon to do like big scale battles, kind of like Pokemon Battle Revolution back on the Wii.
Okay.
So I'm curious as to what the purpose for it is, because we don't really need that technology anymore. Because back on Battle Revolution, it was like, hey, play your DS games, your DS teams on the Wii. We don't really need that anymore. So I'm curious as to like how that's going to work for the Switch. But that was probably the most like eyebrow raising announcement outside of what we already knew was going to be announced.
Yeah. Was there anything surprising or that was kind of in your mind? It was okay. It was an okay part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, Pokemon Presents are just a way for the company to show the big thing that people are looking forward to, which is Legends ZA, but then also updating new games or current games and maybe announcing a new game or two. And so, like, you know, we got a new update for a new pack for TCG Pocket. We got new Pokemon Unite Pokemon. We, it's really kind of like an update on a lot of stuff. So nothing really wowed me outside of what we got from the Legends ZA announcement.
So let's get to that. Pokemon Legends ZA. Why is this a big deal? Why should Pokemon fans care? Spill everything there is to know about that game.
Yeah, so when they released Arceus Legends, people were really excited because they were kind of like Breath of the Wilding Pokemon, which was kind of like the dream that Pokemon fans always wanted, where you just have this open field and you can just throw your Pokeballs and catch Pokemon. And again, the Pokemon dream for a lot of players. And I think a lot of people walked away with that game being positive on it, but it notably had a lot of technical issues. And that also leaked into Scarlet and Violet. And so this is the first, last year was like the first big year where they kind of like took a year off to work on Legends. And there's been some sort of a bit of mixed feelings on how ZA looks from a technical standpoint. I think it looks much better than what we've gotten in the past couple of games. But maybe that's just like not enough for some people. And there's also the Switch 2 to consider, which this game's definitely going to be a Switch 2 probably cross-gen title if I had to put money on it. And I think it looks great. I think it's interesting that it's all taking place in a singular city. So I'm curious as to how they're splitting it into zones. How big are those zones really going to be in a singular city setting?
We'll have to wait and see, I guess. And obviously, we don't have all the details yet. This is just the official announcement from the get-go. How does this compare to Pal World? Now, do we think they're comparable? Do we think that Pal World still has a one-up when it comes to Pokemon games at this point? Pokemon, type games, I should say.
I don't think so. I think that was notably at the time a big explosion, which good for those devs, despite the lawsuit and everything. But I don't think that Pokemon is always going to be the top, the cream of the crop. But I also think that they have noticed that people have not been happy with the kind of the technical quality of some previous titles, and they're from what we saw, in my opinion, they're taking that to heart, which they honestly don't need to do because they're such a big company and such a big IP. And so it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. And I'm just glad that my boy Totodile's back. That's my favorite starter of all time. So I'm glad that he's finally returned after almost a decade and a half.
Long last. I'm so glad to hear that you're excited for it. I say my Pokemon experience is definitely, it's a little bit of a blind spot for me. So it's great having you on the show to be able to talk about it. I want to move on to Half-Life 3. There's been rumors, pretty much. It's been going on, I think, the past 6 or 7 months. I feel like we've heard so much of Half-Life 3 mentioned. Rumor has it that they're almost completed development on Half-Life 3. Who knows if this is true? But do we think collectively, are we ready for a Half-Life 3 at this point? Can it ever live up to the hype at this point?
Can it ever live up to the hype? I would say no, just because it's been such a long time. But I will also say that I will never doubt Valve. I will never doubt that studio and what they're able to do. Like, they didn't release a major game for a long time, and then they released Half-Life Alyx, and that is still the definitive VR game. There's no way I could ever doubt them in the sense of making a fantastic game, but will it meet the expectations of Half-Life 2 and how that game ends, and where does it go from there? That I struggle to believe that they'll be able to do that. But I've also, admittedly, kind of like you with Pokemon, I've never played Half-Life. That is a series I really need to jump into. But just based off of like friends and just general consensus of what I've learned about that series, I just don't see them being able to be like, hey, here's Half-Life 3 15 plus years later, and it is exactly what you're expecting it to be, and it meets all your expectations.
Right. It seems like such a high bar has been set, almost an impossible high bar. And I wonder, too, what to make of all these rumors. Why now? And is it because it's something that's being worked on, or is it just every now and then something pops up and people just latch onto it in the hopes that it's actually happening?
Yeah, I mean, so there's kind of multiple things to talk about there. One is Valve has been pretty open and transparent about how that studio kind of works, where there will just be like someone that might just spearhead an idea, and either they'll be like, let's do this, or no, let's not do this. And that's like how the Steam Deck came together. That's how that's like how Half-Life Alyx came together. And so maybe they finally did have like, hey, we have the perfect story pitch for Half-Life 3. Let's make this. And there is some evidence to think that Half-Life 3 really is coming. There was a few months ago, there was like a spike in like Architect, their card game, the beta branch for that game had like a bunch of players in there. And so a lot of people were theorizing that they were using that beta branch to test the game with players. But I also feel like that would leak like in a real way. Like that would be like, yo, here's gameplay footage.
Right.
Like I'm curious as to like how they were able to make that happen without there being a proper leak, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
We'll see.
We will see. Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe they're just testing the waters to see if people are really still excited for it. I don't know. That being said, on some not as upbeat news, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's just been a plethora of this kind of news story these days, but WB Studios, 3 of them have been closed down. We've got the Wonder Woman that got canceled. This was some of the big news that hit right after my episode aired last week. What do we make of this? I mean, it just seems like it's more of the same thing that we've been seeing in this industry, that just companies are restructuring, letting go of people, changing their directions, shutting down games. It's just been a lot of that lately.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, well, obviously it sucks. Like, let's get that out of the way. It sucks that people are losing their jobs. When it comes to WB in particular, they've had a really spotty past few years with all of Rocksteady and the Suicide Squad game. And then like Multiverse, which Player First Games is one of the studios that closed down. Like that was a really big hit when it came out in beta. Like it had all the goodwill and then it just lost it all. And then it just really wasn't able to recover. And then Monolith like did the Nemesis system, Shadow of Mordor. And like granted, Shadow of War came out and it didn't get a lot of great reception with the kind of microtransactions to kind of like pay to like make this game easier type thing, which they ended up taking out. And that still is a great game for what it is. And then they announced Wonder Woman and people were super excited about that because no one really expected a Wonder Woman game. And then it's just gone overnight, it feels like. And that really sucks. And but like when I look on the business side of it, Hogwarts Legacy was the best-selling game of last year, I'm pretty sure, or the year it came out in 2023.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they probably see, hey, that's where the money is. And we need to restructure things to make games that are going to sell copies. Because right now they have Rocksteady, TT Games, which I believe makes like the Lego games, which sells a lot of copies.
Always winning. Always winning.
Yeah. And Portkey, which is the Hogwarts Legacy team. So, it's one of those things where it really sucks that these people are losing their jobs. But when I also see from like the WB side, like those are the money makers. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then we'll see. James Gunn has talked about being involved in some of the projects, hopefully in the DC realm. So it's not the end of the DC games, I think, from WB, but definitely restructuring and I think a refocus. So let's hold out for things to get better from here on out, at least for WB's case. Well, it was so lovely having you on the show, Cam. I hope you'll come back for another episode at some point in the future because it was great having your insight. And thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you again for inviting me.
Cam Hawkins is the creator and host of the Party Chat, a JRPG podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at CamFinalMix.
Flawless victory! Continue!
And that's This Week in Gaming. I'm your host, Naomi Kyle, and I had such a blast bringing you the news this week. Thank you so much for listening. A shout out to my co-writer, Josh Seaman, and don't forget to let me know what you're playing and what you think of these stories by tagging me at Naomi Kyle on social. From all of us here at This Week in Gaming, we wish you a fun-filled week, and we'll see you again, same time, same place. Talk to you later.
This Week in Gaming is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more podcasts just like these.
An iHeartRadio experience. Rock Legends AC/DC in Vancouver. So, who needs tickets? You could win concert tickets to the Power Up Tour, $500 spending cash, and 2 nights in Vancouver from TripCentral.ca. The smarter way to book travel. Listen to iHeart Heavy Rock on the free iHeartRadio app today for just 10 consecutive minutes to be entered for your chance to win. Every day you listen earns a brand new shot to rock with AC/DC. Details at iHeartRadio.ca.